Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibera's Den. My name is Whitney, and it is time for another Monday Musings. This is actually like the third time I'm attempting to film this. I just have a lot of frogs in my throat this morning for some reason. I tried drinking water, so now I popped in a cough drop to see if that will help. But hopefully this time we can actually get through this. If I end up repeating some information, that might be why, because I can't remember if it was this time I told you or in one of the other tries I did. But yeah, let's hope. So I do have a few books to talk to you guys about, but overall it was a very busy week, and I didn't, of course, not get as much reading in as I wanted to or hoped to. But I did read 3 books, and I have 2 books that I started that I can talk about. So yeah, it's been crazy around here. If you haven't been following along, my husband used to drive a Prius. The check engine light came on. We took it in, and basically it was going to be more money than we wanted to pay. It does have a lot of miles, and we were already thinking about like maybe within probably the next year or the year after switching to a different vehicle anyway. And so this just kind of accelerated thing. So we went, he found exactly what he wanted. He found a place that had, this car. We went, well, it's not an actual dealership. And so they're like, we can maybe give you $100 for the Prius, but that's it. And so it's like, okay. He's like, you're better off selling it privately. And so that's what we ended up doing. But we never took the lien holder when we finished paying it off. We never took the lien holder off the title. And same thing with my car. I just paid it off the end of last year, like November was my last payment. And so we still need to take the lien holder off that title as well. So basically, my mother-in-law has this handyman who does work on cars as well. And so he was interested. And so he came in, he looked at the car, and we were like, we don't have like the lien holder still on the title. We're gonna go get that taken care of. So he's like, okay, like that's fine, just call me. And so we went, I think it was Tuesday. I don't know what day it was, what are days. This past week I went down with my husband. It was Thursday, that's when we did it. Because we were gonna do it Friday, then I was like, no, go ahead and do it Thursday. Um, and so we went and we got that taken care of, but it's 2 to 3 weeks. And so my husband contacted the guy. He's like, look, it's going to be 2 to 3 weeks. If you don't want to wait that long and you want to take the car now, that's fine. You can just pay part of the money and then pay the rest when we have the title. We'll exchange the title. And so, yeah, he decided to do that. And so we've just been dealing with that, trying to figure out our finances because my husband's work situation is still kind of up in the air. He basically works in solar. There was tax credits for getting solar, but those went away this year. And so sales have kind of dropped. They have, excuse me, they have a commercial sell in the works, but it just kind of keeps getting delayed for various reasons. It still looks like it's going to go through. They just don't know when. And so they're kind of waiting for that commercial sell. When that comes in, they'll be able to breathe a little bit, but it does look like sales are going to be down lower. So we're trying to figure out that. So I also decided, like, this has been in my brain a while. Like, it wasn't like, oh, this is happening, so let's do this now. Like, why don't I do this? It's been in my brain for a while. It's just I was a little bit overwhelmed, and so this gave me the push I needed to actually do it. But I follow a creator here on YouTube. Her name is Belle. She's from Australia, and she's an eBay reseller. I love watching her videos, and it's always like that would be such a dream job. Like, you're working for yourself, so you can kind of do things how you like it, and at your own pace and such. And, and it's books. You get to go thrift books and then sell them, and it's just such a dream job that I think. And I would love to do that. And so because of the situation, it's like, you know what, like, why don't I try this? And that way I can maybe bring in a little extra money to put in the savings. And that way we have, a little bit more to work with depending on what happens with his work. So I set up my eBay store this week as well. and it's called The Secondhand Shelf if you're interested in going to check it out. There's only 28 books right now. We went to one of the local thrift stores. That was Tuesday, and so the other local thrift store wasn't open. So we went there, and I found because it's I know what I want for my collection, but there's also a lot of books that I don't necessarily want for my collection, but people might be interested in. So we went there, and then when we were down doing the MVD and such, we also went to Savers, which are obviously a little bit more expensive because their paperbacks are $2.99 and their hardcovers are $3.99. So a little bit more expensive, where the costs at my local ones are extremely cheap. So I figured that would be a good place, if they have a lot of vintage stuff there as well, especially the one that I wasn't able to go to. So I'm hoping to go to that one this week, and that way I can see what books they potentially have that I always just pass over because I don't want them for myself. But I really believe in thrifting and keeping books out of landfills when possible. And so that's kind of also another purpose for this store, is to get books and keep them out of landfills. And so yeah, I'm excited, but I spent a lot of time. I was listening to my audiobook while I was helping my husband when we were down there. I did receipts. And so I was doing that, listening to my audiobook. And then when I was setting up the eBay stuff, I was listening to my audiobook as well. So I was able to listen to my audiobook while I did things. But it's just been kind of hectic trying to figure out our finances, where we can cut, just in case he's not, if his pay gets cut a little bit, if he has to go work somewhere else. We're just trying to figure it out. So it's been just kind of a hectic week dealing with the car stuff, and then working on our finances, and then setting up this eBay store. So we'll just have to see how that goes. But yeah, so thankfully I had the audiobook for one of the books. I did have the audiobook for the other book too, but I had started reading it physically because I had wanted to read it physically. And plus the audiobook I listened to was 23 hours long. And so that book was For Whom the Bell Tolls by Jaysea Lynn. Absolutely loved the audiobook narrators. It was Elena, Wolfe, and something Sean Masters, I want to say. Of course, they'll be down in the description. But absolutely loved the narrators for the audiobook. This book itself, definitely 5 stars. There's an overall coziness to the story itself. You have Lily, and she dies of cancer, so trigger warning for that. It doesn't get too descriptive or anything like that, but it does talk about her family's emotions and her emotions and such. So definitely trigger warning for that. Trigger warning for religious trauma, assault, and just general gore and such, because basically Lily, she's in the afterlife, she's in her paradise, and she's just curious, and so you're able to visit the other realms. And I really loved how the author did the realms in this book, because it covers all the beliefs. Whatever you believe, there's a place for you in the afterlife. And I really loved that. So she ends up going down and to explore hell, because a lot of people, again, religious trauma, the church people and such were well, you're going to hell. And so to spite them, she's well, let's go, And so she goes down, and she sees these demons just being berated by these souls because they don't belong here, yada yada. She's hey, can I help? The demons are super friendly and such. She's can I help? I worked in customer service, my whole working life, and I never got to talk back. I want to do this, and I want to, because I can lay into these souls, because it's hell, And so she starts a help desk, and she starts this romance with a demon, and she's a soul, so she doesn't have a heartbeat or anything like that, but the demons are actually alive. They have a heartbeat, they can be killed, and such. So there's a romance. It does get very spicy, so if that's not your thing, this is not the book for you. And then, there's a little bit of gore and such, but there's this coziness, they're living out their existence, and it's kind of slice of life in some points, a lot of points. It's very slice of life, but it's either slice of existence, I guess, because she's not alive. But at the same time, you have the spiciness, you have the gore from, her working in hell, and the deeper trauma and working through that as well. And then there are also some high stakes with this other universe encroaching on our universe. So there's a lot of different parts to this, but the author did really, really well balancing it all out. And I love like the overall vibe of coziness from this book. Absolutely adored it, and I ate this up. So yeah, absolutely, really enjoyed that. Then I was also reading Gods of Jade and Shadow by Silvia Moreno-Garcia. I ended up landing on a 4-star for this. I like the story itself. It deals with like Mayan mythology. You have this death god. You have the underworld, and again, 9 levels. There's 9 levels to hell, and for whom the bell tolls. There's 9 levels to the underworld here. Mayan death god, and we have our main character Cassiopeia, who wakes up this death god, who her grandfather had worked with this death god's twin brother, and tricked him, and they ended up trapping him. So he's been trapped for like 50 years. Well, his brother took 4, well, technically 4 pieces from him, like 3 body parts and like this necklace. So they end up having to go on this adventure to retrieve the pieces of himself, so that way he has the power. But they're tied together, and he's basically siphoning Cassiopeia's life force from her. So she has a sliver of his bone, like when she like opened it and woke him up. It's because she was touching the bones, and a sliver of bone went into her. And so they have to find these pieces, and then he'll pull the bone from her. But he's slowly siphoning her life force from her, and then he's slowly turning mortal because of the influence of her life force. And how the author did him in particular, I really, really loved, because you see that like slow change, like he's very godlike, and then slowly you see the change in him. And so I really, really enjoyed that. I love the ending itself. There's just something with the writing, like the story itself I loved, but there was just something with the writing I had a really hard time keeping my focus on the book. And I think part of it too was you're mainly following Cassiopeia, but like then you get her cousin's POV and the twin of the death god, his POV and such. Especially the cousin, I didn't think it added anything to the story, and that switch I think kind of messed with the flow a little bit for me too. But yeah, there was just something about the writing that my attention, like I would have to reread because my mind would wander. It's like, oh wait, what did I just read? And so I was having to reread, and my attention just had trouble staying on the book. But I liked the story itself, and the ending did keep my attention. I love the ending itself. But yeah, so 4 stars on that one. And then because I didn't get a lot of reading, like those are the books I read through the week. Like I finished Gods of Jade and Shadow yesterday morning, or no, it was afternoon. I ended up finishing it, so I just kind of wanted a win. And I did have a children's book on my TBR, so I ended up last night reading Number of the Stars by Lois Lowry. I love The Giver by this author, like one of my all-time favorite books, and I had never read this one. So this one is a World War II historical book, and it's following, the characters are fictional, but it's of course based on real events. And there is an author's note at the end that explains what is fact versus fiction. And so we're following Anne Marie. She's a little Danish girl, she's 10 years old, and her neighbors, and her best friend Ellen, they're Jewish. And so they get tipped off, which this was really happened. They go to their church, and the rabbi tips them off like, hey, they took the list of names of our members, and they're gonna come and relocate you. So he's able to tip them off, and so they all end up fleeing. And so obviously very dangerous. And so Ellen comes to stay with Anne Marie and her family while her parents flee for the moment until they can figure out, how to reunite and get to someplace safe. Well, she's dark haired, where the family is all blonde, and so she's pretending to be the sister. And Anne Marie did have an older sister, and that's kind of where, like, I understand why the author did it, but it just seemed like it was a little bit unnecessary. And I think she could have done it in a different way, like maybe that sister, because basically Anne-Marie, her sister, has died. And you don't really know why. Anne-Marie doesn't really know why. And that part I really like because you get get from the perspective of Anne-Marie, and she doesn't fully understand what's happening. Like, she understands enough to be a little scared and such, but she doesn't fully understand. And I thought the author did that really well. But so Ellen pretends to be her older sister who has died, only, she's the same age. And, her sister was blonde too, but as a child, she was dark haired. So that's how they're able to show their shoulders, like, hey, like, look. And I think it could have been done a slightly different way. Because that part, I just didn't enjoy, like, the fact that she was dead and how that tied into everything. But yeah, so you're basically following them, and they're trying to get Ellen to safety. And I learned something, like, at one point there's this handkerchief, like, and she's trying to get this handkerchief to her uncle, and the soldiers open the packet. It's like, oh, it's just a handkerchief. Like, okay, like, whatever. And so I didn't know about that, but that was a real thing. Like, they used these handkerchiefs and they scented it with rabbit's blood and then cocaine. So the dogs would be alerted by the rabbit's blood, but when they sniffed it, the cocaine would mess with their sense of smell. So they couldn't track the humans that were hidden, that they were smuggling out. And I didn't know about that. So I thought that was really cool, something I learned. But yeah, it was mainly, like, it was very simple, which was part of why, like, I enjoyed the story. I thought there was enough um like, tension and such about trying to get Ellen to safety that it was enjoyable. You learn a lot about that. I think it's really good for the age demographic that it was written for. A good way to start a conversation with children about World War II and such. But it was very simple. And that thing with the sister, I don't know, it just didn't sit well with me. I understand why the author did it, but it just didn't sit well with me. So 4 stars, but I think for the age demographic, this is a fantastic book. And so yeah, that's that. And then these 2 books I just wanted to start. I was really tired, but I did start Taurus Season by Brynne Weaver. This is my family's book club, so I need to have this done by Sunday, which I for sure will. I read 50 pages last night, like, with pretty quickly. And so yeah, basically we're following Harper and Nolan. Harper has this secret, which we don't really know yet, like, we're in the beginning stages, but she ended up in this town called Carnage, and I think it's in Maine, I want to say. And there's a lot of tourists that come through each season, and so she's a serial killer. Her mission is to keep this town safe, and so when somebody comes that's kind of unsavory, they get the chop, and she has this wood chipper named Cookie Monster that gets sent in. Lots of trigger warnings for this one. Well, this other guy comes to town, and he's set on revenge. There's something that happened, and so the people involved in that incident, he's set on revenge, and she's like the last one. So he's after her. And then there's this other player who's coming into town to do a documentary because he's like, there was this serial killer, that killed this woman here in this town, but I don't think he ever left because there's still, like, disappearances that happen. And so he's doing a documentary, and based on the synopsis, they basically start to work together against this other guy. And so they're both, serial killers, but his is revenge-based serial killing, and hers is, I don't know why she's keeping the town safe. There's obviously something secret with her that we don't know. And so far, like, it has the humor and the lightheartedness, again, with the gore because it is a serial killer romance. And yeah, enjoying it. Like, I really love the Ruinous love trilogy by this author. Absolutely ate those up. And this has that same vibe, the same kind of humor, like dark humor, kind of lighthearted, but with more serious content as well. And so I'm looking forward to continuing this. I think once I sit down and read that, I'll be able to knock it out pretty quickly. But I put that aside because it was late. I was starting to get sleepy, and I did want to start this one as well. And so that's The Everlasting by Alix E. Harrow. I only got 17 pages, and then I just couldn't keep my eyes open. But I love Alix E. Harrow's writing style. And so far, like, we got the first chapter is Una and the U. And it's talking about what the story's based on, which is Sir Una Everlasting, who's this legend. And then you have the scholar Owen Mallory. And so then we're seeing like conversations between him and this other professor. And then we learn he gets this book that's supposed to be like this myth. And I know it deals with time travel and such. Like, I'm not very far into it, but already, like, I love the writing. And I'm like, if I wasn't so tired, like, I could have just ate this up. So I'm really, really looking forward to continuing this. So those two books are definitely going to be read this week. Now, that leaves 5 books. And because April is Aurelium, if I don't get to these, they're going back on my shelf. I don't want to carry them over into May. And I'm doing my TBR game now as I finish things, but there's still kind of a reward element because of situations like this. So if I finish the TBR, even if it takes me 2-3 months, it doesn't matter. But I finish the full TBR, I still get my little reward token, which allows me to forego a honey jar prompt. If I don't, like if I choose, like in this situation, I don't think I'm going to finish these books by April and I just want to move on because I'm doing Aurelium in April, then in that case, if I put them back on the shelf, I didn't finish TBR, I don't get the reward. So first we have And Back to You by BK Borison. This is not part of the game TBR. This is just an extra book I was hoping to read. At this point, I think as much as I want to read this and I was looking for something, lighthearted, I think I'm going to put this back on the shelf for now and hopefully get to it in May because I still really want to read this, but my focus is elsewhere. It's been a crazy time. My excitement for it has kind of dwindled a little bit. So while I'm still very, very interested in this is going to go back on the shelf unless by like some miracle I knock out all these other books and I have a few days before April, then I might pick it up. But other than that, so the next book after I finish Taurus Season and The Everlasting is going to be The Outside by Ada Hoffman. I've really just been enjoying like the sci-fi aspects of this. And this was a book Christine and an autistic reader for a couple years did like a read along focused on autistic authors. And this was one of the picks. I ended up not getting to it. And it worked for a prompt for my game. And I'm very, very interested in this. And I've heard Penny I always can't remember her channel name. Penny the paperback something. I don't remember. Again, link down below. But she's talked about this book and how much she enjoyed it. So this will be my next read. I think I'll be able to read those 2 books and this one for sure. It's the other 3 books that I'm not entirely sure about. And so the next one I would like to pick up, just because this will finish the series for me, is The King of Crows by Libba Bray. Plus, it has that 1920s aspect, which I really enjoy. But it is chunky, and I haven't fully loved the rest of the series. I've enjoyed it, but I haven't fully loved it. But this will finish out the series, and I want to see kind of what happens with our group. But I'm thinking if I don't start this by Wednesday or Thursday, I'm probably just not going to get to this at all. Then we have Flowers in the Attic by V.C. Andrews. I wanted to read this for a long time. I have a chunk of V.C. Andrews books, which are actually written by the original author because after her death, her family got a ghostwriter, and so all the books that have been mass produced over the years has actually been a ghostwriter. But this book was, the original book, and she did write this. Like the author actually wrote this. But it does deal with like an incestual relationship, so I'm not necessarily as excited about this one, but I've always wanted to give it a try. So we'll just have to see. And I am thinking I will read The Sage of Waterloo by Leona Francombe. It's a smaller book. It is kind of, the writing's not horribly dense, but it is a little bit denser. And so I think, if I finish up the outside, this will be the next book I pick up. I'm hoping I can maybe read The King of Crows and this one at the same time. But we'll just have to see. Like I said, we have all week, and then I still have a couple days in next week before the month changes, and I can get started on my Aurelium TBR. So I'll just kind of have to see how it goes. But that's 6 books. So is it doable for me? Yes, but I've also want to save my energy for Aurelium and not push myself too hard. So I'm foreseeing getting 3 of the books done, which is basically what I've been averaging a week anyway, 2 to 3 books. So I'm foreseeing getting those 3. The other 3 I think are probably just going to go back on the shelf if I'm being honest. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it goes. But of course, I will update you guys next Monday and let you know how it went and then kind of what my plans are, because I'm ready for my Aurelium books. I love Aurelium. I love participating in it, and I got the books I have. There's a nice variety there, and I'm very, very excited about those. So anyway, I'm foreseeing finishing 3 books. The other 3 are probably going to go back on the shelf. I would love to know if you've read any of these, your thoughts on them. If you have, of course, spoiler free, or a book you're reading that you're enjoying right now. If you just want to let me know you're here and you're helping to support the channel, you can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji down in the comments below. And yeah, happy reading, everyone. Bye.